teachers. Or whatever else you want to tell me about your teaching or why you're interested in this little introduction today. Dreama, are you piano?
Yes, I teach piano, and I just like learned about music moves and music learning theory last fall, and that's how I kind of got into this and was on the Facebook page and heard about your little webinar.
Wonderful. Okay, and what's your youngest age that you teach?
My youngest age right now is 5, but I've had 4 before as well.
Yeah, and Moses?
Well, Dreama's my wife, so I'm mostly kind of supporting her.
Okay.
Music moves. I decided to. I'm also a musician, violinist. So I kind of got interested, and she mentioned we just came back from Texas where we met Marilyn, and she kind of walked through the whole music moves, MLT kind of philosophy and program. So
beautiful. Yeah, how about Jennifer?
I teach general music. I have pre-K through grade 5, and I've been using music learning theory in the various schools that I've taught over the last 10 years or so. And I've seen lots of clips of your yes, no, uh-ohs with your kids, and so I'm really excited about getting a chance to see how you get there with your kids.
Yeah, you could teach today's lesson then. Gonzalo, what do you teach?
Yeah, so I teach piano, jazz piano mostly.
Great.
Yeah, and also theory and analysis and jazz harmony, stuff like that, at the high school level.
Okay.
So my youngest students are around 14, 15.
Yeah, got it. Very good. And where's that at? Where are you located?
Portugal.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. All right. Josh?
So I teach elementary general music, K through 5, during the school day. And I teach piano after school, and I'm probably going to be starting some strings and some modern band with my kids this fall.
Wonderful, great. And you said K through 5, but the after school stuff, is it older?
Some younger, some older.
Okay.
I've got my piano students range from 4 to adults. And my 3-year-old just woke up, so I think I'm going to be mostly muted today for the good of the order.
And we got a bunch more people coming. Oh boy, they're lining up. Thank you. And Krista?
Yeah, I teach music moves for piano. Probably my youngest right now is 5. My oldest is 9. I teach early childhood music. Right now my youngest is my son, so he's 2. I'm the director of early childhood education at Brookline Music School. So I write I write curriculum and everything for their early childhood program, birth through about 6. I've also taught older students with autism at a school for children and adults with autism as well for 6 years.
Got it. Thank you. Wow. It's a diverse group. And then Tommy's here. Are you there, Tommy? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. You don't have to use video. I just asked because I don't know if pressing that button says you're allowed to, or if that means,
No, I can do it.
It's completely up to you as long as you can hear.
No, I'm here.
And what do you teach, Tommy?
I teach piano. I live in California. I've just started music moves this year.
Got it.
And so it's been really good, but yeah, just kind of getting into it all.
Yeah, and who did I miss? There's YLP Studio. Are you there?
Here.
Hi.
Hello.
Who's that?
My name's Karen.
Hi, Karen.
I cannot see myself, actually. Oh, right here. Okay.
I saw your nose. And what do you teach?
I teach piano. I live in San Antonio and just got back from the workshop with Marilyn from Houston.
Okay, another Marilyn fan. Me too.
Yeah, I see some familiar faces here.
Yeah. All right. Well, I could spend a lot of time doing introductions, but I wanted to get a sense of what I'm working with today, because there's a bunch of directions I can go in a short while. If you can see, do you see my first slide? If I do this, what happens? Tell me. Do you?
It becomes.
It goes full screen.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, full screen.
Yeah. I'm wondering, and let's put this away. All right, how's that? So that's me. I have a website launching soon, and on there will be harmonic learning sequence. You see this okay? The aptitude measure that we might talk about a little bit, blogs and rants and podcasts that's in development. I have a partner that we're coming up with ideas. It'll probably be a while before that comes out. And then I have repertoire with root melodies and PDFs and audio files. And I'll show you later, but this is all on my site. Can everybody hear and see okay? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
And then tonal patterns in every tonality except Locrian. Expanded functions in major and minor. So expanded functions would be like dominant of the submediant or dominant of the supertonic. Stuff that goes beyond 1, 4, 5, and 5 of 5. Can everybody see my fingers okay? So these are all things that are going to be on the site, and then online coaching and training. So that's my quick, I'm getting my sales over quick so we can get on to the important stuff today. Harmonic learning sequence, where do I start? I start with babies, and I just believe that before 3, they need to absorb, you know, especially tonic and dominant, major and minor, and all tonalities. They should be. So I'm lucky in that, and Krista, you understand because you're early childhood, how important that children get stuff before they turn 4 or 5 and are ready for lessons. Not that a lot of children are ready for lessons even when they are 5 or 6 or 8, and some adults would say they're not ready for piano lessons too, but they need to absorb. And then after 3, I administer my yes-no game, which some of you have seen. And if you haven't, and you have access to kids that are between 2 and 7, if you want to take a screenshot of that link, that you can play that game. Right now, I'm gathering data for research, so it's free. Eventually, it'll be published, and you know, and maybe I'll keep it free. I'm trying to find a app developer that'll put it on phones. So that. And then I sing a lot of songs, major and minor, with tonic and dominant used in the accompaniment. So it could be anything. The bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down, right? My fair lady. And I'll sing that song without words. Do, 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 do. While I'm playing. Do, 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 do. So it's good for children to learn to sing without words because it helps them stay in their singing voices. And once they have a lot of repertoire and they've heard this a lot, so that's Mary Had a Little Lamb. That's London Bridge is Falling Down. Let's Go Tell Aunt Rhody. Go tell Aunt Rhody. It's Itsy Bitsy Spider. So they've heard this for weeks. I really want to preface what I'm doing now is in that I'm going to stay in major pretty much the whole day with you, but it's important that they get a lot of variety. So in minor, there was an old woman, all skin and bones. She lived down by the old graveyard. And then there's songs that have a different harmonic rhythm, like all day, all night, Marianne, down by the seashore, sifting sand. All the little boys and girls join in the band, down by the seashore, Marianne. Just listen. And then I have them sing. And I can do it, or I can do it, and I can do it. So there's a lot of varieties of ways that they can internalize the song before I either ask them to sing it or like that. I've got a whole bunch of songs, and I'll tell you real quick about them later, but for right now, let's move on. So when I'm teaching songs, sometimes I use, you know, this simple block chord accompaniment like you heard, and sometimes I don't. I think it's important that they hear melody without accompaniment. And I also think it's important that they hear accompaniment without the melody. So I have children listen to me sing. Then I play the melody on the piano or an instrument. I take away the words and sing the melody on do. I think I already did that a little bit. And then this wabka, I made that up last night at 1 in the morning. It's while alternately using basic chordal accompaniment. So they're singing the melody, the kids are singing the melody, and I may be accompanying them, or I may not. So I'm having the children sing the song with accompaniment and then having them sing without. Because they might be leaning on my accompaniment to sing well, and I don't want them to do that. So I actually ask children to sing the melody by themselves. And when they do, sometimes if they go, London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling down, when they stop singing in tune or lose their place a little bit, I'll give them a little incidental wabka as needed. And then I have children sing tonic and dominant total patterns. And I go through a whole early childhood version of this, but basically everybody knows what I'm talking about, I think. Hands up if you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, hands up. So everybody's familiar with tonal patterns, great. And then when I take the melody from the song away, I play what I played for you a little earlier with like, and I say, you've heard that before a lot. What is that? Well, I took London Bridge, the melody, away from, that could be London Bridge, right? London Bridge is, yeah, I call these things functions. I just want you to learn the word functions. And I want you to understand, hey, I can't stop there. London Bridge is falling down. Can I stop there? High fair. Where do I stop? No, I stop on lady or fleece as white as. Can I stop fleece as white as? No, can't stop there. Do you stop here? Yes. So that happened accidentally some years ago. And tonic became yes and dominant became no. And from there, you get used to yes, no, yes. Jen, what's this? Yes. Krista, do you know what this is?
No.
No. Right? And I'll go around and I'll see who understands yes and no a little bit. But before I do that, well, actually, I'm testing some of my higher aptitude kids that way. A way to sequence the learning is in my next slide, and this is going to be a little bit overkill for the half hour that we have, but I'll show it to you anyway. This is actually a slide that's going in the presentation for the 4-part seminar. So Here we go. Ready? I sing and play the roots to the song in the following ways, alone with nothing else. Will you just listen to the roots? Bum, 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 yum. Or for the case of Marianne, bum, 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 ba, ba, bum, 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 ba, yum, bum. And they're just absorbing that. And you could also play it. So they're absorbing the roots, listening to you sing them before they have an opportunity to learn them and sing them themselves. Again, they've already been saturated for weeks on many songs, not just the ones I'm playing today, but as many as possible. So sing or play the roots while singing or playing the melody. So now you're hearing both at the same time. Bum, 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 bum. I can't do this. Bum, 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 bum. You know what? I have never done that with my kids because I could do that, I would think. Mary had a little lamb, little. Now I can't even do it. But you get the idea. I think I'm under pressure with all this talent in front of me. So sing the roots while playing the accompaniment. So now they're hearing do, mi, so, and so, fa, re, ti, while they're just singing the bum, 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 ba, yum. And then the children sing the melody, and I'm going to sing and play the roots. I'll sing the melody, and they sing the roots. Switch. Half the kids sing the melody, half the kids sing the roots, and then switch them. Then I start, after they've done and they're competent at some of the above, you don't have to do all of this, but I put all of the pieces that I use to go catch kids when they fall down and can't quite do what I'm asking them to do. And then I sing the roots using solfege. And then I sing the root melodies, yes, 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 no, yes. Do, 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 so, do. Do tells us the resting tone, and they've known this. This isn't necessarily, it's a prerequisite for understanding harmony that you know the resting tone for some songs is do, and for other songs it's la. And I don't use the term major or minor yet. I'll say resting tone do and resting tone la. And one of the ways I'll get at differentiating those two is I'll say, oh, Tommy, how about Tommy, do you want Twinkle Twinkle Little Star with the right resting tone or the wrong resting tone?
The wrong.
You like the wrong one? You sure? Can we, Julie doesn't like that. Can we fix it later for Julie if we do it the wrong way first?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it the wrong way. I like it when you choose the wrong way, Tommy. That's really cool. Sometimes it just sounds weird. Let's check it out. How I wonder what you're doing, ending on this wrong resting tone. You know, so they just, and I call it, that's the wrong resting tone. So I start with right, wrong. Then I'll get to, and then I'll get to resting tone la, resting tone do, based on the number of tonal patterns in their vocabulary in both tonalities. Does that make sense? And then we sing the root, la, 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 mi, la, for Mary had a little lamb on the wrong resting tone. Yes, 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 no, yes, la, 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 mi, la. Or do, 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 so, do, if you're doing it in the right resting tone. And I show them the fingers. And then I sing tonic and dominant patterns. I want you to just look at me and watch. Do, mi, so, mi, do. Do, so, mi so, do. Do, mi, do, so, mi, so, mi, do, so, do, mi, so, fa, re, ti. Hey, did you hear that change? Ti, re, fa, so, ti, so, fa, do, mi, so, mi, do. Will you show me your fingers with me? Do, mi, so, sing. Do, mi, so, fa, re, ti. And I just go back and forth, and I'll do kids one at a time. And then I say, okay, Josh, what is that? Can you show me your fingers for that? Say yes or no. What did you say, Josh? He said,
Yes.
and I said, not only did Josh show me the right fingers, he sang the root when I played yes. And he sang the root when I played no. And I go around, and this takes 2, 3, 4 months with 4, 5, 6-year-olds to get to the point. And oftentimes, even within a couple minutes, I can sit down with a kid and I get, are you getting tired of no, yes, no, yes? Are you tired of this? Is getting really boring. Let's do something different. Oh, now I'm just going yes, no, yes, no. Ah, this is boring. What's that? No, no, no. Yeah, it is, yes. No, no, no. Boy, this just gets boring. No, yes, no. Are you tired of this yet? No, I'm not. Yes, you are. Are you tired of this? No, you're not. Yes, you are. Gonzalo, are you a girl? No. Tommy, are you a boy? Yes. Chris, although I probably have to avoid that kind of conversation nowadays. But you're hearing this so much, and the kids are actually, you can see them get tired. And then I go, uh-oh, that's not yes. And that's not no. Uh-oh. That's not yes, that's not no. Do you hear uh-oh? I want you to listen to yes and no. No, yes, no, yes, no. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, yes, yes. No, no, no. I want to see the kids' eyes freak out when I do that. And when they do, I say, let's go on a hunt for uh-oh. And they already know these songs. But they didn't know that uh-oh was in them. Twinkle, twinkle, uh-oh star. And they think that's hilarious. Or if you know, what's the song? Ting-a-lay-yo, come little donkey, come, ting-a-lay-yo. No, yes. And I sing, uh-oh, yes. No, but I do all these things up here. Sing bum, ba-yum, ba-yum. And then I have them learn the melody while somebody's singing the roots. Same thing like that. Then teach them the fingers. So I probably used up most of our time already. So I'm labeling the patterns, adding uh-oh, and eventually add I don't care. And where I don't care came from, take me out to the ball game, take me out to the crowd, buy some peanuts, a Cracker Jack. In a one-horse open sleigh, I don't care if I ever get back, just to pass the time away. Can't you hear the whistle? Right, where am I? Rise up. Anyway, you in a one-horse open sleigh. What's another one? Just to pass the time away. So they start to hear all of these other functions, and I do this with as many songs as I can using tonic and dominant. And then I go on to stuff like Home on the Range. That's just the melody with the chords. And then you see the roots and the functions. And then I have another silly thing that I do with the kids. And I go, oh, give me a dough where the buffalo roam and the dough and the rayfalo. So, I should say so. Where seldom is dough, buffalo. The fafalo. They think the fafalo is the funniest thing on the planet. And the raytalope. anyway, they just think that's just hilarious. So anyway, I teach the song, I teach the roots, I teach the functions, I teach the fingers. And all these names, yes, no, uh-oh, I don't care, last, a few months until I say, you really want the adult words for these? And then I give them the adult words. I have a songbook that's got all this stuff. This is for later. These are just some slides I punched together, but let's see. So I want to just take the last couple minutes to answer any questions, if anybody's got questions. I went through a lot really quickly, but that's kind of the purpose. I want to overwhelm you so you come back for the 4-part series. Anybody can steer me onto a track that's be helpful for you?
Do you do learning sequence activities with your students?
That's what I call this, but it's harmonic learning sequence activities, but tonal patterns and rhythm patterns. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's all going on parallel, but what I found is yes and no can be taught even at 2 years old before they know, before they know how to sing. They can distinguish yes and no. And I think that's really fascinating for me. And I think if they know that they're distinguishing between the two, that they learn to sing in tune quicker or easier. They have context already. So yeah. Gonzalo?
Yeah. On your email, you said that the sequence would take them from labeling yes, no, oh, I don't care,
mm-hmm.
Eventually expanded jazz functions. Can you give examples of what you meant?
Yeah, so eventually we get to, and I say, remember do, mi, so, mi, do, and so far, re, ti, and it was part of dominant, and this is part of tonic. Well, you know what this is? That's T. It's supposed to be part of dominant, but it's not. It's an extra tone on tonic. Doesn't that sound nice? There's re, ti. Re, ti could be part of dominant, or it could be part of tonic. And I just kind of like tease their ears at my kids' age. But ultimately, I'm going, so ti, re, fa, lay, so mi, ti. I just do 2-5-1s with added tones, and I just say, tonic doesn't just have to be do, mi, so it can have added tones, but they have to have a pretty strong vocabulary before I get that far. Or actually, I just need a high aptitude and kids to be maybe 2nd, 3rd grade, and I would go that far.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else? And of course, you do that with all tonalities, all meters, all right. And I talk about modulations. It's like we're changing do to a new place that's also do, or we're in where do's are resting tone, and then la became a resting tone. Do's are resting tone, and it's right here. But now la's are resting tone, and it's right here. Like let me do it. What is the name of the song? It's just a blues. But after the blues is over, that section is over. After that section is over, it goes right into St. Louis blues. So it has a minor section. So I say, the beginning of the song, that's the resting tone. In the middle of the song, that's the resting tone. At the beginning of the song, that's do. But now it's la. And I help them hear the difference. So that teaches them parallel and relative, minor, without using any theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Tommy? Oh, I'm sorry, Josh?
When you're singing the root melodies, do you find that there's any benefit to going up to the high dominant or versus down to the low dominant? Or
It depends what keyality I'm in. So
Okay.
if I'm Itsy Bitsy Spider, I'll go down. Just because it's easier singing range a little bit. And if it's Mary Had a Little Lamb. But after they're singing in tune, you go either way.
Okay.
But yeah, for D and E, I go up. Well, E, I go both ways. D, I actually go both ways too, but I tend to go up. In C, I go up, B flat, up. Yeah, E flat, I go up or down. Just trying to keep them in their audiation range. Anybody else? They've extended our time, so thank you. They made it. Yeah, hi, Jane. Do you want to? Or not Jane? Karen, right?
Yes,
Karen.
yes.
Sorry.
Can you talk about what you will cover in the subsequent course, and how long is the course? What's the format?
Yeah, it'll be 4 hour-and-a-half sessions. So 4 90-minute sessions. It'll depend on the group that I get. If it's diverse like this group, I'll cover the whole map. But if somebody's here and they're not interested necessarily in the jazz functions, going really deep into stuff that I'm learning. In fact, this stuff I'm teaching you now, I only learned maybe 10, 15 years ago. I mean, not learned how to teach it, I'm talking about learned it. I couldn't hear double dominant function to save my life 20 years ago. And now it's so, I hear it coming a mile away when I'm playing my trumpet. It just, you know, I play Dixieland jazz. And so, so there's 4 90-minute sessions. The dates and times will be determined by you guys, who can do when. The things I'm going to cover include, so how to teach songs in depth, how to teach root melodies, how I teach functions beyond tonic dominant, subdominant, double dominant, all the repertoire that I have that I taught. Let me see if I can share this window quickly. Here we go. Now let me go back to Zoom and share. Start share. Is this the one? Can everybody see that? Can you see my songbook spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So I have 89 songs. The tonalities, no, 90 something, almost 100 songs. 6 or 7 in Aeolian, Dorian, Lydian, a lot in major, but you'll see why I teach major a lot. And obviously it's major and minor predominant, is because I teach all these functions. So the one I'm highlighting now is, oops, that's the wrong highlight, but tonic, dominant, subdominant, double dominant, supertonic, dominant of the supertonic, triple dominant, and then also the sharp 4 diminished chord. And all those chords come from Take Me Out to the Ball Game. do. So you got triple dominant, double dominant, dominant, tonic. So the kids learn to sing do, 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 so, do, 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 so, la, the dominant of little re, big re, so. So getting into all those functions in major and dominant of the submediant and dominant of the subdominant and minor, and of course the other tonalities, tonic, dominant, subdominant, and Phrygian, or subtonic, I should say. Tonic, subdominant, subtonic, and supertonic in the case where you need it, like in Phrygian. So you start to hear all of those harmonic functions in their proper context. And so, am I answering your question? So there's all this repertoire that I use to teach. And for me to give you a bunch of homework and say, learn this repertoire and learn the root melodies for it. So there's duple, duple Latin, duple swing, and then there's multimetric. So these 7/8, instead of saying unusual, unpaired, I actually write it down specifically. Do, 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 be, do, bobby, do, or do, bobby, do, be, do, be, do, bobby, do, be, do, be. Like, which one is it? In this case, this Aeolian chant, this Aeolian song goes back and forth between 7/8 that goes ba 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 da da ba 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 da da, and it goes to ba da da ba ba in the middle of it. It's called Chicken Head. The kids love it. It's the stupidest song, but the kids love it. Chicken head, go back. I forget it. Chicken head, go back. Chicken head, go back. And then it switches. So these are just the ways that I've been teaching kids to hear functions, tonalities, meters, and they can do all of this by the time they're first and second grade if I've had them for 3 years. And so that's what I intend on teaching during the class. And I'll adapt to the individual needs. But I want you to understand musically what's going on in this repertoire that I'm teaching. And see why would you not feed them this exceptional variety when I know that they can handle it. They're doing stuff that I couldn't do, and some of the kids come away from the class doing more than I can do. And if you're doing that, then you're teaching them to teach themselves the rest of their lives, and hopefully they'll go on and be jazz musicians or composers or whatever they choose to be, great audience members. It doesn't matter to me, but the teaching this level of understanding obviously gives people the appreciation at a much deeper level. That's the one true Gordon guidepost. Understanding leads to better appreciation. So did I answer your question well enough? I don't have it formulated out as much, but I do know that learning all these functions has made me a tremendously better musician in the last 10 years, especially.
Yeah, this is very helpful, especially seeing the spreadsheet. I can see that you put lots of work in there, lots of useful information. So can you help me?
Yeah, let me say one thing real quick. Yeah. Every one of these songs has a PDF and a sound file, and the sound files have in one channel the melody and the other channel the roots, so kids can acculturate to them while they're singing one part or the other. They can be listening to the other, or turn left right channel so that they sing and solo with one channel, not the other.
Mm-hmm. So help me picture what you you expect us being able to do at the end of the 4 courses? Are we going to learn all the songs in the list?
If you are capable, you can. You'll have the possibility of taking as much. Some of my stuff is a little bit crazy, but my kindergartners can do it. There's one that so it's back and forth between 7 and 5, and then it flips on itself. 7, 5, then it stays in 7 with a 6 in there, and then it ends in a blues. So it's called I Sure Do Love Spring. And if you want to tackle that one, it starts in Aeolian, then it moves to Phrygian, and then it ends in the blues. And the meters are, it doesn't matter. The kids just are having fun, and they learn them. And then I show them what the roots look like. So here's something I didn't talk about today, is that I do notation like that before they're reading tones and rhythms, because they hear the roots. So I'm giving, it's actually verbal association and not theory. People will argue with me, but that's verbal association, because my kids, without me teaching them, can recognize the difference between Marianne and Go Tell Aunt Rhody when I write these up on the board. And of course, I write those up in minor and with 3 functions or 4 functions. I also teach meter this way, but meter, I don't teach the rhythm patterns first. I teach, big beats and little beats, and sometimes the big beats are not the same size. And so they're reading this kind of stuff before they read rhythms. So, and I'll put a 5 and a 7 over the top of that. And 5 and 7 are kind of silly because they can only talk about the little beats. But we know this is only 2 big beats and this is 3 big beats. But they call this 5 and this 7 because they count the little beats. Don't worry about the little beats right now. And so before they read rhythms, they're reading meter. And that's unusual. And that's not part of the class necessarily, but it's something I've been doing. So it's the same logic of why I teach this. The kids are able to audiate these functions by looking at them. So yeah, so you'll learn repertoire, you'll learn to expand your functions. We can talk about how to transfer that onto piano skills and kids. We can talk about my progression from, what order of songs, when do you introduce Dorian, or when do you introduce Mixolydian, or, do you need to do enough major and minor first? And there's some real interesting ideas about whether children would be best being saturated at kindergarten, 1st grade in all these tonalities and functions at the same time that they're learning everything else. Oh yeah, it's a lot. So should we make it simpler and just work major minor for a while and then later add Dorian, or do you want to put it in the mix right away? Those are some really good things to talk about. How you would adapt everything that I'm giving you, because this is not a method. It is, but it's not. It's basically another toolbox for you to use, and I think it's just that important that people start really thinking about what kids are capable of doing outside of the typical music learning theory box that has been offered, either through Jump Right In or Music Moves and like that. Yeah.
The 4 sessions, will it be finished by summer?
Yeah, I plan on getting them. I'd like to get them done in July, but I'm sure it'll spill over into August depending on people's availability. I also would like to have at least a week in between, if not 2 sometimes, for you to do enough work on your own so that you're coming back and emailing me to get what you need out of the class.
Sounds great.
You know, I'll make it as difficult as you want it to be. And I'll also, you know, cover all the basics. I'll slow down what I did today so that it won't scorch your hair.
So you mentioned that this is from baby to adult. And today the demonstration is you mentioned lots of example for younger kids.
Yes.
Can you talk about how we can apply this to older students?
Yeah, I don't think most older students have the capacity to understand tonic dominant, subdominant, double dominant, dominant of the submediant as part of their audiation vocabulary. So I don't think there's much different other than maybe they need repertoire that's not, I don't know, take me out to ball games that bad, but they need some repertoire that maybe is not as babyish in terms of the lyric content, because there's nothing babyish about the musical content of these songs that I teach my younger kids.
If we don't teach them with lyrics, maybe that would also make it easier to apply it to an older crowd.
Yeah, you'd be certainly welcome to adapt any of this stuff to, you know, make it your own.
Are the sessions going to be recorded and we could watch them back later?
Yeah, hopefully this is being recorded so that I can go back and listen to it and say, Eric, slow down. But I'll post this if it'll be helpful to review some of what I talked about today. Also, hopefully I'll do a better job at, there's a 4 o'clock session. If you want to come back, you're certainly welcome to come back again later this afternoon. But I'll try to, maybe I'll meld the 2 together.
Hi, Eric. I enjoy watching your videos that you put on the YouTubes. And I was just wondering, do you see your kids like once a week, or do you sometimes see them more than once a week?
It's usually once a week. Some of the kids I had twice a week for 40 minutes, but that 40 minutes ended up being 20 minutes of teaching time because of the behaviors involved. It was just a really tough school. But I still got my work done. I just wondered what would happen if they really were focused for those 2, when I did have them for 2 times a week. But once a week I get the same amount of work done, at least in the, you know, changing environments.
Okay. And for those 20 minutes, would it be like, do you do the harmonic functions with them and chants and meters? And
I'm doing everything. I throw the kitchen sink at them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's hard for me to write down exactly how I do it because I go in there and I dance to what the children show me they're ready for. And then when they show me they're ready for something, I get them readier and then double down on how ready they are. And then I'll teach them to read, or I'll ready them and ready them and ready them. And then I'll teach them the names of functions. I get them so ready that when they do learn something, they fall off a cliff and I just can't help it.
And do they, like in the school, because you're teaching in the classroom, do you like give them things to go home and practice too, or do they just come for the classes and they
Well, at Peabody, I have CDs that I give out, and like I'll have Mary Had a Little Lamb, London Bridge is Falling Down, and they'll all be with the root melodies. And then after the 3 or 4 songs that are tonic dominant and major, you've got the tonal patterns in tonic and dominant on solfege. And then the next set is minor tonic and dominant. And so there's songs that are just tonic and dominant and minor, like Joshua Fought the Battle of Jericho. And then they sing the roots, they sing the melodies. And then after that section of songs on their CD, they have the tonic and dominant patterns in minor. And then the next section is major, but it's tonic dominant subdominant. Next section is minor, yeah, tonic dominant subdominant. And then I go to Dorian. I do Dorian and Mixolydian on the same CD, or on the same lesson. I do that 2 or 3 weeks in a row. And then I'll come back to major and minor. And then I mix all 4 of them up. And after they get those 4, by mid-year, I'm adding. They've already had repertoire, and they're already singing, and they're already doing a whole lot of stuff, but I'm doing the functions in you know, Phrygian and Lydian.
Are they improvising over the root melodies as well?
I don't push them to. I figure they'll come out in the wash down the road.
Mm-hmm. Are you doing any other improvisation activities in class?
They come in singing their own songs. Mm-hmm. And I should probably do more of it.
And
you know what? It's probably because I'm not very good at it, so I'm not a good model. I'm good on my trumpet or my piano because I feel like I have tactile audiation sometimes. Because my voice, I'm telling you, it took me 20 years to be able to. I think my undergraduate music teacher was right. My methods teachers used to just stick to your instrument. After teaching music learning theory, I'm a whole lot better off as a musician. And teaching this particular way has made me so much better improviser, I can't tell you, on my own. But I'm not a good vocal improviser unless I'm really in a particular mood.
And I remember seeing like the videos where the kids are like seeing these the notes on the paper and they're able to sing it back to you. Like, are those the ones at Peabody, or this is at the school that you're teaching?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, they're no less capable. It depends on what my focus was. Yeah, I haven't been teaching very much reading the last year with the same age kids because I want to see how far they can get with the functions. And their expression. So every year it seems like I alter a little bit and see how far I can push myself in one particular direction. And I still find that rhythm is so much easier for me to teach than anything else. That's why I focus so much on the tones and the harmonies, because that's something I'm weak at, and I overcompensate by teaching it. Whereas opposed to most teachers that have a strengthened tonal or rhythm, they tend to teach more to their strength. And I think it's better for the children if I teach to my weakness, overteach the things that I'm weak at, because it just helps me. And I catch kids up quickly with rhythm for some reason. I'm not sure. There's a little bit of spookiness going on with some of my kids in my classes and what gets done. I don't know how it happens sometimes. They come back the following year and they're leading the class. It's extraordinary sometimes. And then there's some kids that are really struggling to. I think my yes/no game. I think it's an aptitude measure. I don't think it's a achievement measure. But I'm waiting to get the results on all that plugged into my computer. I got to start testing 60 kids next week. And they're the ones I taught. But I have 100 or more answer sheets from someone whose kids never learned yes/no. So if it's an aptitude measure, it's going to be something special. And if it's not, then it's something that we should be teaching. So either way, it's going to be good news. but I think it is a new aptitude measure. And that's going to rattle Gimmel's cage a little bit.
What do you think are the main implications of your sequence, content sequence, let's say, to the skill learning, the way we approach skills and the sequence of skills? Like, for example, partial synthesis and stuff. Like
yeah, well, I think you heard in what I'm doing. I did have a version of partial synthesis. It might have bridged up to generalization, or when I just say, you know, listen. Tell me, or I could say, tell me when this changes.
Yeah.
Right? Did it change there? Is this changing? So partial synthesis is just recognizing change and context.
Yeah.
And the context is tonic dominant, or context could be, you know, major minor, obviously. The implications of that kids will be able to have in their bones enough functions that improvising and creating music will be much easier. And if they're able to create and improvise, then I'm done with them. You know, at least to the age that I can take them. I'm bothered by the fact that, you know, my kids go out and take lessons and they never hear a minor song again. Until much later. Most Suzuki programs don't have a minor. You know, much minor repertoire, let alone Do, Re, Mi, Sol, La, and Phrygian, but my kids are all audiating in that, and I think it brings them a lot more meaning to, they can bring a lot more meaning to the major songs they're playing, especially if inside a major there's an E minor chord and a C major piece that they're playing, that E minor chord might have a little bit of flavor of Phrygian if it's next door to an F major chord or whatever. I think you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Karen?
Yes. So I am wondering how I can fit this into the other learning sequence, the tonal and
yeah. I don't know. I mean, they all overlap. You can teach tonal and rhythm at, you know, not the same exact moment, but I teach tonal patterns and rhythm patterns on the same day. And so I teach tonal, rhythm, and harmonic sequence. Some of my harmonic sequence can come as early as 2, 3, 4 years old without having tonal learning sequence much begun, at least at the discrimination level of learning. So I don't know if I'm getting too heady with folks with terms of music learning theory, but the discrimination level and prior to that is pre-audiational development and the 7 stages, 3 types of pre-audiational development. I don't know that there's a hard demarcation for, say, tonal development, and then all of a sudden you're in audiation. I think there's some understanding and some audiation that's happening back here that can be labeled in verbal association. This is the first time I've ever said this, so thanks for the great question. That they're able to understand in audiation some things that they can't produce themselves necessarily. I have some 2, 2.5, 3-year-olds that sing really beautifully in tune, but they're not ready for verbal association. Like do, mi, so, but they need more stuff. Even though they're singing in tune, I don't give them verbal association at 3, 4. I don't think it's a hurry. No hurry for it. But every kid can learn yes, no, and it tells me something about them. Not that they could, you know, that singing verbal association at that age is like, oh, wow, they're really advanced. Well, they're just copying you. But understanding tonic dominant and subdominant relationships by 3 years old, and they're able to tell you, that tells me I could teach that kid differently than somebody who doesn't understand tonic and dominant, even after 2 or 3 years of my teaching this way. That's why I think I have an aptitude measure.
So it sounds like this is for acculturation?
I use it for that.
Mhm.
I acculturate my babies with tonic and dominant.
Right.
My toddlers and 3 and 4-year-olds, you know, and with more, everything.
And at
But
what, I'm sorry, at what stage do you move to the association to the functions?
when the kids show me they're ready.
And what are the signs?
The signs are when they show me they're ready by looking at me when I've switched tonalities on a song. They're discriminating between tonalities, like that's the right way, that's the wrong way. That's yes, that's no. You know, I had kids at 3 and 4 years old tell me, no, that's threes, that should be twos, Mr. Eric. When rhythm. Because I just show them, you know, this is Itsy Bitsy Spider, and this is Mary Had a Little Lamb. And I show them, and eventually they say, I like it the other way. So I'm showing them differences all the time. And if they're able to get the differences, they go on and learn. I don't know that learning sequence needs to be as hard and fast. It's a good framework, but it's not hard and fast. Dr. Gordon did unbelievable, miraculous work over all those years, coming up with all this stuff from nothing. Well, from his research. But I think it's a little too hemmed down, and people aren't improvising using learning sequence yet. We're all copying what he taught us to do, or what Marilyn teaches us to do, or what other people teach us to do. I think I'm definitely a jazzer in the classroom. And so how you overlap learning sequence and tonal learning and, you know, rhythm learning sequence, those are kind of separate and easy to do. And I believe it's best to not mix them. But then there's harmonic learning sequence, and I just keep finding a way to fit it in before verbal association tonal. And it certainly is beneficial to have learned, you know, tonal patterns and verbal association and labeling major and minor and labeling tonic and dominant the way they do in learning sequences. But the kids are capable of so much more earlier, and I don't think it does them justice to hold them off, to hold them back from learning as much as they possibly can when they're just hungry for it. It's not like I'm forcing them to do anything. They come in and our classes are a riot. They're enjoying it a lot.
Yeah, I can totally see that. The kids singing and laughing, yes and no, oh.
Yeah, and it's a challenge for them. They're like, which one is that? And occasionally they get mixed up, and then they reground themselves and get reestablished. And then I add, I don't care. And then I say, that's the no of I don't care. So what are we going to call that? Well, I don't really have a name for it. Remember we call this dominant? Well, this is two dominants. So then we have triple dominant and quadruple dominant with 2 feet and 2 hands in the air. You know, and we learn songs like 5'2", eyes of blue, tell me what those fibers can do. Does anybody see my gal? So it's C, quadruple dominant, triple dominant, double dominant, dominant, tonic, and then just learn songs that have that in it. And I say, oh, that sounds like the old ball game. And they'll make those connections on their own sometimes. Yeah, it starts triple dominant, out, 3 strikes, you're triple dominant, so dominant, tonic. Yeah, I've got to stop in just a minute, but I don't want to cut off people who have questions. everybody has my email address. Certainly welcome to email me if you need further explanation about anything I covered today. I'm happy, follow up and do as much as I can. But I've got to stop and do a few other things before this afternoon's session.
Okay.
But anything else that you might ask that would be beneficial for the whole group? Anybody?
If we're taking the course, are there assignments that we're to complete like before the next class?
Yeah, at the end of the first session, I'm going to ask you what you need. Given, an hour and a half, we've got an hour today, but we're trying to cover too many bases today. That afterward is like, do you want to just work on functions and major? Do you want to expand your musicianship in all the tonalities? Let me package something particularly for this group. And then in addition to that, I'll say, Dreama, you should take on this. And Krista, you should write some songs this week. That would be fun to teach at whatever